to me like the students now are really going deeper into understanding what is control, because in the beginning of your understanding about what is control, you have go into the tangible and say, oh, it's about not controlling the other person, it's not controlling my life, wanting to have a certain outcome. You have lowered your expectations about things, hopefully, and you have learned to leave relationships at peace, to let it be. You have learned detachment, and now you are in a phase where I am inviting you to review the internal control, because we are walking now in the going deeper into the belief system, the limiting belief system, and we can again very tangibly relate to the things that are in front of you that are limiting. You know, if you have poverty, you know that you have a belief system about wealth, or you be radiant, or you being displayed, the jewel that you are, and so on and so forth. But it's the internal control that I would like to, with Matthew, to open a conversation so we can hopefully give you some understanding of surrender.
Yeah. Well, the first stage, as most of us have already passed through, it's owning what we're creating. You gave the example of poverty, of thinking you're not worthy, and then so you manifest poverty over and over and over, and then you get you understand more deeply. Well, I'm creating this. I have this emotion of so you go deeper. You start to see what your belief systems are, but still it reflects. And it's a very, very frustrating stage.
Yeah, I feel powerless and feel that, okay, why my reality is not changing?
I can see it's my belief system, but I seem powerless to change it. I'm utterly powerless to change it, and what's the point of even knowing?
Yeah, and then you want to find techniques and things to change it and change personality.
Because it's the judgment that it's wrong. You see, you're saying this isn't right. I have to fix it. I have to alter it somehow to the way I want. And it all comes down to control.
Because that is the control. It's a wanting to change that, or to keep the belief system as is, so you can have some kind of power.
The belief systems we might have had for eons, and it's our only way to not feel powerless, to see ourselves like a victim, to blame ourselves somehow. If we live something in childhood and it's like we feel powerless, so we blame ourselves. It's a way to take control. We're utterly terrified of having no control.
Yeah, you have a wonderful example this morning about the overweight of people.
Well, for example, it's a good like if someone has often with abuse of some kind, and later in life people put on weight. It's a way to keep the control. You know, there's examples where if there was a woman one time and she was very, very obese, and then she worked on level, and she with this intense diet, and she went down to her normal weight, and men started to look at her again. Men started to noticing her again, and then suddenly she felt threatened because she was going to be abused again. So her controlling self put all the weight back on in a few weeks. It's all about control.
Yeah, and the control, if we take control as this concentration of power, of life force, is the incredible power that in a way we get entertained and get so comfortable in the limiting belief system. I always say that the only way to get out of there is by turning into the responsibility towards what excites you.
Yeah, well, if you continually, boldly act on what excites you, your belief systems will automatically come to the surface, and then you can see them, you can spot them. You're directly confronting your belief system.
The limited belief system.
The limited belief system. And when it's in the open, you can see it. But that's only the first stage.
Yeah, and it may feel a little bit of a struggle and a peak actually of intense feelings or intense things, but that's often that you get a struggle with that, and you don't understand the beauty of that peak, because it's when your mind go more crazy, is when your emotions get more agitated, is when you're really feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But that's precisely the peak of the work that you have done in getting into the surface the limited belief system, so you can see them, and it will be reflected in your projected reality and your relationships and your work and your health, etc. Right? So that please make peace with that discomfort. Don't try to fix it, because then you come back again into the power. Right?
So that's the first stage, is identifying that it's you and your belief system which are reflecting in your life. It's a very frustrating time. When you get to the end of it, your belief systems can just be hanging on to the maximum, and you can just be slammed from every side with situations that are confirming your belief system. That's a very intense time. It's it can be very discouraging, because you feel utterly powerless. But that's precisely the moment when you can realize that your feeling of powerlessness is in reality your absolute control over the situation, which you think you can't control, which is controlling you.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful saying, and it's at the age of also the surrender there.
So that feeling of utter, like you have no control over it, and it's just happening, and you can't do anything about it. That's when you're confronted with that. And then that's the point where you can understand that it's your own absolute control, your own desperate absolute control over it, which you think you can't control because it's somehow unconscious. It's that absolute control which is controlling you.
Yeah.
And so it's like you're doing it to yourself, but you can't. You don't quite understand it. So the way the mechanics work at that point, once you are following your passion and doing everything that excites you and confronting your limited belief systems, the next stage is to see everything that happens as positive.
Yeah, and I want to make a parenthesis on the positive of following the passion, because it comes here the synchronicity and opportunities. Like if you the life it tells you why you don't go to this place, or there is an opening for this particular excuse me, sorry. Okay, let's continue on that. So I want to make a parenthesis on the part where you are follow your passion, because there is a certain synchronicity that is presented to you, right? Like the positive thing, and the unlimited belief system comes forward and say, why you don't do that? Oh no, I cannot do that because that. Then you come back to the limited self. But if you take actually the step and say, okay, I'm making the choice to go to that place, to meet that person, to do what I think I cannot do, I'm making that choice. And even before you make any action, all the synchronicities start to play around, so you have the opportunity to enter into that dimension, right? So
Yeah.
it's not only follow your passion, it's see around.
It's when you follow your passion with no insistence about the outcome. That's where the control gives up.
Yes.
And what's happening may not be what you think should happen. But it's to see it as positive, that it's you making it happen, because it's what you need to experience. It's that's the moment where we drop the control, when we see everything positive. You know, this is happening for a reason, and I'm growing. And so we're taking our energy out of the negative.
Yeah, that is.
We're taking our energy out of the negative.
We're reclaiming life force. Really.
We're reclaiming life force from that negative pattern.
Yeah.
And then the negative no longer has to repeat, and our frequency can then rise. And we can manifest things which are more in keeping with where we truly are.
Yes.
But we have at that point demagnetized our control. And all that huge amount of energy which was invested in control can then shift into creativity.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because we sometimes don't understand what surrender is. And surrender is when the force of creativity comes your way, and you have no other option than to represent it, than to do it, that to express it, right? So surrender is not only, oh yeah, I surrender, it's about an active interaction with creativity.
Yeah.